Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Madcapper and this is another video on Raid Shadow Legends and another in this series of I built them so you don't have to. Today we're going to talk about a slightly different champion in that this is a champion I've already done a video on, but I wanted to revisit because some of the game mechanic changes, some of the champion changes, and some of the meta changes that may make this champion for better or for worse. In my original video, which was a do not sleep on this champion, I talked about Excruciator. Excruciator is an epic Magic Affinity champion of the demon spawn variety, and let's just take a look at her and we'll talk a little bit about why I had built her before, and then we'll talk about how she might be useful now. So Excruciator is a arena nuking attack based champion. Her whole kit is 100% arena centric. They're both a single enemy targets and a passive. Now the passive places a veil on this champion at the beginning of each round, and that is round, not turn, so keep that in mind. If you're using her in dungeons, for example, each wave she would then reapply her veil unless she has a block that's being carried over or something like that. And then each time she kills an enemy, she also places the veil on herself. Also, she has Neck Snapper, which attacks one enemy. Damage increases by 35% while attacking under a veil. And enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived. And then if you attack, without a veil, it depletes the target's turn meter and fills this champion's turn meter equal to the amount the target loses. The can only decrease the turn meter by up to 50% against bosses. This turn meter decrease cannot be resisted, which is a nice little piece because not being able to resist a turn meter decrease could be the difference between life and death in some cases, and it's overall a good synergy with her passive. And then her A1 is just a standard, increases by 20% while attacking under a veil buff, or heals this champion by 25% when attacking without a veil buff. Now let's talk about why I originally built her. The original goal with her was to be able to use her against Tormund to keep him dead. The problem is that Tormund's passive did include Veil even when she first came into battle. So if you tried to kill Tormund, what would happen is half the time you get frozen before you even had a chance. So she was a little bit less useful than perhaps we would have liked to have her in. And that's why, even though she was situationally useful and it was a do not sleep, it was probably my weakest argument because there were so many downsides with Tormund. The other thing is Veil seemed to be a very generally disregarded ability. It wasn't very useful outside, of course, Duchess, who does an all team Veil and is a perfect Veil versus this only being a standard Veil. The third issue with her is that her defense and HP were pretty low, so she was essentially a glass cannon. You couldn't just hold on to her and hope to wait to her turn because you wanted her to go forth after all your speed boosts and your debuffs and everything else, and a lot of the times she would just be dead before you got a chance to use her. What has changed in this iteration? Well, first of all, Tormund has changed. From when I originally did the video, and Tormund's, as many of you probably know, his passive no longer affects people coming into battle with abilities, so the only time you have to worry about Tormund is if she uses it after killing an enemy, or if she uses her A1 and heals someone. Those are the two main cases where she might freeze herself, and that you have to be considered, at least worried about Tormund. The other thing is Veil had gotten some changes itself. Now, unfortunately, it's only a Veil, so it's I believe a 5%, but it's still, or 7.5% mitigation of AoE damage, which means against AoE based champions, she is going to have some level of survivability. Whether that's enough to keep her alive, we'll see. I'm going to put her in some pretty favorable situations where she's going to be able to, she should be able to at least survive, and then we'll see if she can actually do it. We're going to run her in a slow comp in arena. I will take her through the dungeons like I do the other champions, but I wanted to give you kind of a precursor to what's going on with her. So here we are in the campaign. This is the first place we're obviously going to start, as I do with all my guides on the I build them so you don't have to. Excruciator can get through this. She's a magic-based affinity champion. She is an attack champion. She hits really hard, and if you have those three combinations, whether it's AoE or not, you're going to be pretty safe, especially if you have some pretty endgame gear. So I don't expect there to be much of an issue with this, but it gives you an idea of what you can do. And where this is going to be useful is if she's not quite level 60 and you want to be able to get her there. This is perfectly fine. She's never in any danger. You're not going to waste any energy. This is the most efficient way to reach level 60. So what I have done with all my champions, a few of them I do buy their masteries, but most of the time I get them to level 6-star level 1. So I 6-star level 1, and then I put them in my Minotaur team, so she gets all her masteries and levels up at the same time. If I need potions, I'll also put her in the potion team, and then whatever level she ends up at when she's ready to go, I'll then bring her here, or whoever I'm building here, and I'll solo them through this stage. Force Affinity champions, you can't necessarily do this with. Some you can get away with, but some just aren't able to do it. But Void, Spirit, and Magic-based champions typically don't have any problems here, especially if they're attack-based champions, and especially if they're AoE champions. In this case, obviously a single target, but she hits so hard that it doesn't really matter. She's always under veil, so she's hitting even harder. Not a problem at all. And like I said, the most efficient use of your energy is to bring them solo through here to get those final levels, rather than leveling them out with something else. Alternatively, what I like to do, and a lot of content creators have given the same idea, is to put them in a dragon run. I did that with my rock breaker, put them in overnight when I was doing dragon runs. If you can get away with it, like I did with my second Sir Nick, is I put them in my spider team, again, just to get that, just to soak up the XP that otherwise is just being wasted. It's not near as much as this, but you're doing it overnight and it's not really affecting your overall scores or runs or anything, so it's a worthwhile way of doing it. But bar those other ones, say you're not doing any overnight runs, you're not buying any energy, whatever it may be, this is the most efficient use of the energy when trying to level them up in the campaign. All right, so let's talk dungeons. Excruciator is not going to be an endgame champion for dungeons necessarily. However, she will help you if you've already built her out in some areas with her damage. She's no good in Fire Knight, don't even try. She's no good in Spider, don't even try. But where she can be useful is if you need some extra damage in Dragon, you don't have a better AoE champion for the waves, or you don't have like a Royal Guard, Cold Heart, those sort of champions that do that max enemy HP damage. She will be useful there. Also, I do find that she's somewhat useful here in the Ice Golem, especially if you don't have one of those speed comps like the Zavia Bomb, or I guess Zavia is Force Affinity, but you don't have these end game seer strats, those sort of things. She is going to be generally useful here because she can deal with the minion adds at the Ice Golem. So the key is to get her there. I put Stagnite in. I do have a strong team with, and that's the whole point, is that she's got a role, and her role happens once she gets to the boss. She can take out champions, she can erase champions in the waves, but it's only a single target. That's not where she's top tier in this. It's once you get there. So that said, would she do well with Apothecary, Tyrell, a Stagnite, like an all rare epic team? Yes. Would she do well with an all rare team in her? Yeah, you could probably make it happen, because at the end of the day, whatever you need to build to, if it's Kale with this team to get through these waves, the point is once you get here, this is where she's useful. This is where you need to use her. And hopefully we don't die here. We do need Stagnite to land his attack down at some point. There was a block revive, so she's already kind of shown where she's generally useful. She loves to counterattack, though. It scares the living piss out of me. There's the attack down, so I think we're safe now. Boom. There, yeah, see, it doesn't hurt nearly as much when he's got an attack down. And it was extended, so it was a 3-turn. Oof. I felt that one. I felt that one. That smarted right away. God, why it shouldn't scare me every time. Oh God. The damage. Boom. So a minute 39, she did her job. Yes, the other team is what got her there, but she still did 1.2 million. She still blocked revive on one of the minions, which just makes the run a little bit easier. So if you're having problems with consistency because of particularly the boss, she's going to be useful there. If you're trying to speed up your runs, she might help because you don't have to re-kill the minions every time. But as far as those end game 45 second, the 59 second is what I have. She's not there for that. She's not going to help you necessarily with that. So why don't we take her to where she does belong and see how she can perform in the arena. All right, so this is a typical team you're going to go up against. The team power is a little bit low, but that I don't know, let that fool me. So let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. Let's see if she's useful. I have not used her since for a very long time. So as we said, that's exactly what happened. These two got taunted by Umbral, and now she's locked out for 2 rounds. I can't do anything about that, except for I do have a stripper. So everyone loves a stripper. So now she's down. This is, like I said, pretty easy team. We're going to do this because it's the one that I know I can kill, and that's going to put me back on Veil. That's one of the key pieces to this as a champion, is you need to get her under Veil, especially when you're up against a Rotos. I want these two to take Rotos' ire. I do not want her to, because he will one-shot her before you can even say Jack be nimble, or whatever you can say. I don't know. Why would you say Jack be nimble? So we want her, see, that's not too bad. Again, we're still okay. So we'll get the taunt out. And we'll set that. We want to set it up. We don't have to worry about, like, typically you're only using this on the one champion that, so if there was like an Arbiter, I would have taken that, but there's no other revives on the board. So I just want to make sure I kill. That's the key, so that she's not targetable until the last possible second. So we want to try to take his health down as much as possible. And then hopefully, oh, we got lucky there. I think she died. Is that, so we're going to she's going to get a chance to go here. I think that's below half. I don't get to use that, but I will get to use that. And there you go, 37k on her A1. Here's a good another team to test with, because this team typically gives me a lot of fits if I didn't have the team I had. Rotos is able to withstand this with the shield and with his abilities. We'll see if they're able to withstand it with her in there. This is the blender mix, obviously. This is the poor man's blender mix. Okay, so they're very slow, actually. I was able to speed cut. But there you go. So she's actually didn't take that much damage, and that's because not only is that shield really good, but as we know, she has Veil, which is going to mitigate some of that damage, which is nice. And then it's my turn to go. She might even not have to worry about it this round. Now, normally, and this is one of the unfortunate side effects of not using a Rotos, is I would use Rotos on Skullcrown to be able to ignore that. She does not have that ability, but we can just use that on her. It's going to do the same thing. Block Revive. 82k is a pretty nice damage piece. And then look at her. She's still fine. And away we go. Blender, challenge, accept. Final thoughts on Excruciator are this. I think she's an okay champion that has some usability for accounts that don't have better nuking single target champions on their roster. Specifically in Ice Golem, I think she is very viable and useful to speed up even late game teams with their runs by being able to damage and block revive on the minion ads for the Ice Golem. Outside of that, in dungeons, she's probably not very useful. In the arena, again, she does have some usefulness, but the problem is a lot of the champions that have entered the foray since she was originally created have done and are doing a better job at what she's there to do, a single target nuking champion. Yes, she has a block revive, which makes her a little bit more useful, but when you see all the different things you have to deal with now in the current meta, specifically unkillables and block damage, all that, she cannot ignore that, like a Rotos, for example. So it does kind of narrow her usefulness quite a bit. She's also a very fragile champion, much more so than many of the other champions in this slot, which makes it a little bit harder to use her than it is to use, say, a Gala Longbraids, or of course a Rotos if you're going to the legendary route. But for teams that don't have, or rosters that don't have this single target AoE nuker, she is absolutely viable in most stages of the arena until you get to high 4 into platinum. For example, right now, I am about 100 points shy of platinum, and I would not use her at all in the arena because I don't think she would be able to get me those endgame points to push me into plat, as an example. How would I change her? I think, first of all, I don't know if she needs a change necessarily, because she does fit a bill that is there for a lot of teams that don't necessarily have that type of champion. But if I were to change her, I think the number one thing I'd like to see is for Veil to be turned to a perfect Veil. It is a single target perfect veil that she should have. That gives her 15% damage mitigation instead of the 7.5. That means incoming AoE damage would be lessened, especially with her low HP and high attack. You are building her with not much HP, so it would be very nice if she could actually live past the first round and maybe get into that second round and do her thing. The other thing I would say is right here, when you say the champion turn meter, if you want to make her endgame viable, where people will actually use and covet her, the part where it says attacking without a veil buff fully depletes the target's turn meter and fills this champion's turn meter equal to the amount the target loses. Make that part of it, whether it's a veil or not. I think she should be able to just have that every time she does that. So she attacks one enemy, increases damage by 35%, blocks revive if she kills. If she doesn't kill them, she doesn't block revive, but she fully depletes their target turn meter and fills this champion's turn meter to the equal amount. Or instead of just this champion's turn meter amount, without a veil buff, she fills all her champions the amount she steals. So if she steals a full team turn meter, she gives each champion a 25% boost. So she takes from whatever champion she's hitting and equally disperses the turn meter among her team. I think either of those changes would make her amazing in situations where you need that turn meter boost or where you need that sort of ability. As it stands now, I don't think you're going to see anyone in Platinum or even High Gold 4 using this champion. Rotos being a fusion champion just fills a better segment, is a better champion than this, filling the exact same role. So unfortunately, until you give her something that does a little bit more, she's just not going to be used. Maybe they'll consider it, maybe not. At the end of the day, for a lot of you, you're probably not going to use her, but for those of you who need a nuking champion, you don't currently have one, she will absolutely do amazing work for you, especially if you're moving up from, say, silver to gold, gold 1 to gold 4. I think this champion, even reasonably built with 250 crit damage, 220 to 250 crit damage, is going to do amazing work for you. So please consider building her if you need that champion. Don't just vault her and forget her. But for you endgame players, you're probably going to pass her over for, a Gala Long Braids, a Mountain King, Rotos, those sort of type of champions instead. Well, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was useful to you. If it was, please give it a thumbs up. Also, please consider subscribing. I am trying my march to 1,000 subscribers. A couple reminders. I am on July 4th giving away a $50 Amazon gift card to one lucky winner that leaves a comment in my previous 2 videos ago where I talk about my hitting 500 subs. Also, I am giving away my free-to-play account, which is a pretty decent account. You can see me feature it in that same video. I'll be doing that at 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help. Get the word out, get people to subscribe to the channel, and then I'll be able to give that account away, and some lucky winner will have an account that's a pretty good starting account for anyone who wants to be free to play, or maybe you even want to start playing with a little bit of money. You've got a great starting roster, so please consider that. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.